Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey friends, will you join me for just a minute and imagine how amazing you'd feel living the unique and distinct life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love, and places you love, and all the while creating something of real value for others. That's what I call a life of significance, and I can tell you it makes for a very happy life. And so can Jim Frascone. He's my guest star today, and he's here to share his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. But before I bring him on, I'd like to share a poem that we've created for him for being our guest star today. So here goes. In vineyards lush where sunbeams dance, Jim found his purpose and took a chance. From grapes to wine, a dream embraced, in every sip his passion traced. A fisherman with tales to tell, on tranquil waters he casts his spell. A life of faith, he stands strong and tall, with love for God he answers the call. Tune in, my friends, don't miss this show. Jim's journey has much to bestow. He brings a message we all should hear with every story and every cheer. Cheers, Jim, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. I'm glad to be here.
Why don't you get us started by telling us what you're doing these days to make your mark of significance on the world?
Well, I'm making wine. That's what I like to do. I used to be an engineer. I grew up in an Italian family. We made wine, of course. That was part of our lifestyle. And when I got closer to retirement, that I thought, well, it'd be nice to have a small winery. It'll keep you active, keep you alive, and so that's what I do today. We're in a little fishing village in a little town called Anahuac, Texas, and we're in the center of two bays. The South Bay is Galveston Bay, and the North Bay is Trinity Bay. So we have fresh water coming in from the north, salt water in from the south. So we can get quite a variety of fish if you would like fish, and I do. I don't fish as much when we're busy making wine, but if I'm not making wine, I like to fish.
Very good. Just give us a minute or so kind of explaining what your business is with the winemaking and the bistro and the food and the harvest host, and just kind of give us what's it like down there in Anahuac when people come to visit?
Sure. That's really what makes this life joyful and happy is I am a host site for Harvest Host, which is an RV program where you can come stay a night at over 8,000 different businesses, and you can dry camp free, or if they have hookups, you pay a small fee. And what that does is that brings business to your establishment. And we have a small bistro. My wife is famous for alligator egg rolls.
And they're delicious.
This is the alligator capital of Texas, right? Matter of fact, September 15th, we have the Alligator Festival, where we have a hunting season. My wife will sell 1,000 egg rolls in one day.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So our little winery, I always wanted to be a cottage winery. To me, that's where you don't have a ton of traffic coming in all the time, just a moderate amount. It's manageable. I didn't want a lot of employees since I'm retired. And so that is our lifestyle. So we have a small RV park. We have a little church / wedding chapel. And we have about 11 acres of grass we got to cut. That's the biggest part of the work. I've got 400 grapevines here. On a good year, I might get 1,000 pounds. That's the best I ever got. And that was because they froze and the grapes got mad and they just produced all kinds of grapes. And so between the bistro and the winery, we make probably, because we pick grapes in other parts of Texas, so I try to do about 15 tons of grapes a year. And that's enough to keep us going. We do some festivals and businesses, and we might do 3 or 4 weddings a year. Nothing gigantic. We actually made it an official church. I have a prison chaplain that does the preaching for us, and we're going to start teaching finance to people that want to come and have breakfast and do stuff like that too.
Oh, that's great stuff. Well, thank you, Jim. Now let's do a little mathematics so our friends all around the world can get to know you through our happy formula.
Okay.
Simple, but a very powerful formula goes like this: power plus purpose equals happy. So let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up all the power that you need to get things done, whether it's physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, emotionally? In other words, Jim, what do you do on a regular basis to create the power you need to take really good care of yourself and your loved ones and still have plenty left over so you can be a giver to others?
Okay. Well, I try to split my time up. I try to get a good night's sleep every night. I always walking around here, try to move as much as possible. Sorry for a little background noise. I have a friend working in the back of the winery there. And I go to church regular. I like doing that. I did study theology with the Methodists before. I studied with the Baptists for a year, and I grew up a Roman Catholic, a good Italian, So my spiritual world is very important to me. I try to help anybody in need, spiritually or financially. I never would let anybody go hungry. That's my number one priority. People have to be fed, be able to, so they can enjoy life.
Yeah.
So work hard, play hard, pray hard. Those are my go-tos.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Jim, let's discuss my favorite power generating concept. It's called a Kaizen state of mind. And it's this beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I love it because it's based on mindset, not circumstance. Kaizening life is knowing there's always something I can do better tomorrow than today. And for me, it creates this optimistic, gentle, but very powerful and continuous uplifting of my life day after day after day.
Right.
So, Jim, how does Kaizening your life help you increase your power to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Okay. I'll give an example. As I told you, in 2008, we were literally wiped out by Hurricane Ike. So I lost everything. I had 5 houses.
When you say literally wiped out, you mean like down to the ground, gone?
All it was concrete pads.
My goodness.
We had a 20-foot wave come through here and take out, there was 350 houses in this fishing village, probably only 50 left standing.
Wow.
And they were standing, the further you away were from the bay, the more your chances were you'd survive, right? So I think I had 5,000 bottles of wine scattered out. I had 15 barrels that I had just squeezed and never to be found again.
Gosh.
So we cleaned up, licked our wounds. My daughter blessed me with an RV, and I was going fishing in Alaska. So I'm in Alaska. I get a call. It says, "Hey, Jim, we have a house for you. Would you like one?" And I'm thinking, yeah. What kind of strings are attached, right? There was no strings attached. It was from Neil Diamond, a singer. Yeah. He built 15 or 14 houses here. The county had a committee, and I was blessed with one of them.
Wow.
It was a true blessing because we had no insurance. I lost over $1 million that year. And to me, money's not important. I don't know if you ever got that from me, Matt. I've been a millionaire twice. I've lost it all. Happiness is being with my family and being able to just take care of my life.
Yeah.
Because I know God will take care of the rest. I'm not worried.
Yeah, great.
So I decided, I looked under here. This was a garage. I thought, well, you know what? We'll slowly just build this back one day at a time. Yeah. And I had 2 guys that helped me. They were friends. And every day we took a little piece and we built something. And after 12 months, we had a little winery again.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes.
Yep. And those little pieces were not only just building on each other after the disaster, but you were also bringing the experience you had in building the business already before. So you were starting from scratch, but you had knowledge that
absolutely was correct.
Part of Kaizen.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that. Now, when I read that definition, it was like, oh yeah, I can relate to that.
Very good.
So I'm also a wine instructor, as you know. I've had over 500 students, and that gives me a lot of joy. Just being with people gives me joy. So
yeah, excellent. Well, let's move on to purpose. That's the second element of the formula. And Jim, I've observed that major life transformations, those big discoveries of purpose, often come from devastation.
Yes.
Whether it's addiction or abuse or disease or death or a big disaster, something awful strips a life to its core, resulting in a big and often unexpected change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover purpose in my life using inspiration. So how about you, Jim? Was there a specific moment or
Yeah, there was. I don't think I reflected this with you, but I was married to my first wife for 30 years. Met her when I was in the Navy, and I was an engineer. I told you that. And I worked in all over, but I was in Fort Worth at the time. And she became terminally ill. And she wanted to spend her last couple of years on the water.
And
So I
Jim,
asked
how long ago was this?
this was 1998.
Okay.
So I asked my boss, can you get me to Houston? He said, yeah, I'll get you there. He liked my wife. He loved her. He says, but you got to get her on the water, Jim. So I drove around that bay I told you about and found a little red cottage across the street where this is now my church. And so she loved it here. She died in 2000 in my arms. I became a hospice nurse.
Wow.
I took leave of absence, and my wife now was our neighbors across the street.
Oh.
And a year later, her husband and son drowned in the bay. They were fishermen.
Oh goodness.
So we known each other a long time, right? But I always thought I wanted to do the wine because of the way I grew up. But when I got here, we had a lot of support with friends. They would come and read to my wife. And for the first year, I would work back and forth. But then she said, Jim, you can't take me to the doctor no more. I don't have it. I was just devastated. Even the state of Texas, she died from smoking, her COPD. They won $1 billion, and the state says, oh, that money's not for you guys. We can't help you. So what the Lord gives me is all my neighbors and friends. They were there. And then when she said she can't go to the doctor no more or anything, we got hospice. And she literally died in my arm. And I flew her to the Naval Air Station in Pensacola, and that's where she's buried. And I have a plot right next to her.
And so you said the place you moved into is actually the church building?
Yeah, it was a church. It was not a church then. It was all after the hurricane. It was just a slab.
Okay, but it's in that same location where I saw.
Oh yeah, it's exactly identical.
Okay, wow, I didn't know that part of the story. And so you say that obviously a huge major event in your life. What was the difference between Jim Frascone going into that and the Jim that came out of that? What was the big transformation in you?
One of the things that happened to me was I didn't know what loneliness was. Okay. So this is a bad part for me. I stayed drunk for a month. And I cried and I grieved and I prayed. And then one day I said, this is not the way I'm going to stay. Getting up on my feet. I went back to work. I prayed again and I got busy. And I headed towards retirement because that's when I knew I'd be free to do my passion. So when I retired, that's when I did this.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, Jim, thank you so much for that. Well, let's take a quick commercial break so our sponsor can spread a little love with our audience.
Absolutely.
Mr. Happy Living here. I love good things made for good people. That's why I love Happy Living's online e-course. It's an 8-week-long deep dive into you and the inspired life you want to live. The life you were put here on this earth to live. The one that you and only you can live. 8 weeks of lectures and ideas and topics and supporting materials and powerful self-improvement tools. All designed for you. All designed to help you create the tools and the power and the confidence you need to discover your purpose and to discover the life you were meant to live and to feel incredibly inspired and motivated to decide you will live your life to its fullest. It's all designed to help you create the unique and distinct philosophy of you and your inspired life. Go to happyliving.com, select our e-course, and save $100 with promo code WYTV7. And for every enrollment, I'll donate another $100 to WITV7. For $300 and about 30 hours, I promise you'll never, ever be the same again. And we're back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Jim Frascone. He's a winemaker, fisherman, and a Christian. His company, Frascone Winery and Bistro, produces fine wines, serves Vietnamese and Italian food, and hosts events on Trinity Bay in Anahuac, Texas. Jim has enjoyed making wine ever since a very young age with his grandfather. As life moved on, he became an engineer, but he always kept his winemaking craft alive. As he got closer to retirement, he knew that winemaking was his passion. Now, for the past 20 years or so, he's been all in, living in his passion. Jim, I love that. And I think you're going to love this article that I found called "The Science Behind the Power of Giving." It says that the act of giving itself can be a gateway for discovering your reason for being on the planet. It says that science tells us that giving your time and your talents and your treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering purpose and overcoming difficulties and finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So I changed our formula, updated it to power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So what do you think, Jim? Has giving your time and talents and treasures been a pathway for discovering your purpose and for getting past difficulties that you've faced and for bringing real meaning into your life?
Oh, 1,000%. Anytime I've helped anybody, I get back way more than I give. Mm-hmm. When I was an engineer, I can't tell you how many people I helped build a barn or a garage. Mm-hmm. And the wife would fuss at me a little bit, you're doing too much of this or that. But it always came back. And I didn't have to ask for it. I didn't expect it. Yeah. I just thought that giving of yourself brings joy. And it does. So
if you're giving and you're accepting something, it's not really giving. It's like you're making some sort of agreement.
Oh, you're right. That's bartering, right?
Yeah, that's right.
No. That's what I do when I go to the flea market. I don't like that otherwise. Yeah. No, I think being free makes all the difference in the world. I think I might have got some of that from my parents. I thought about that when I read this. My mother and dad, my dad would complain a little bit, but my mother always says, "We give till it hurts, Jimmy." And then we give a little more. Oh, wow. And she was always about that. Whether it was gathering up clothes, because I grew up in Minnesota, so it was cold. They would donate. They would find as many coats during the wintertime that they could give to charities to pass out. And my dad was a railroad worker, so he didn't make a ton of money, but they gave of everything else that they could, and money too. But
yeah, that's great. And so the science tells us that giving to others helps bring real meaning to our lives, as you've experienced. And the joy that we feel from our fourth element of significance, doing work that creates value for others, that confirms it to me. But there's something more to it than just the giving, Jim. I think that the real magic of life seems to come when you're giving from living in your purpose. So, Jim, the audience and I would like to know how it makes you feel to be happily living your life and giving to others through the work you were put on this planet to do, and that people all around you have taken notice. So, my friend, just sit back and open your heart and have a listen to what people are saying about the impact that you're making on their lives by finding the magic of giving from living in your purpose. One person said, "Jim and his wife are so welcoming and invited us to join in the bottling process. So we had so much fun, and the great wine and food just topped off a wonderful experience." Another said, "We love the people who have stepped out and followed their dream. All types of interesting wines made on site and served by a lovely couple." Another said, "Jim convinced me to try the alligator spring rolls. I'm not much of an alligator fan. It always tastes fishy to me, but his wife is the queen of spring rolls. They were so good," he said. Others said, "Jim's a great host. His place is so beautiful with the view of the water and the grapes and no noise, absolutely no noise. His wife's Vietnamese food is the best I've ever eaten. We enjoy the time sitting around the table, drinking wine, eating alligator rolls, telling fish stories, and laughing. He's welcoming, accommodating, helpful, fun, friendly, kind. The food is great. The wines are delightful. My favorite is the honey wine. Make sure you try the coffee-infused wine too. Jim and his wife couldn't be any nicer. And finally, this person said, Frascone Winery and Bistro is definitely a must-visit stop in Texas. Jim is a pleasure to talk with, and you'll definitely love his award-winning wines. Thank you, Jim, for your service to our country. So, Jim, how does all that love make you feel?
Overwhelmed. Yeah, it just makes your heart swell up and makes you feel like you really do have a purpose here, and the impact that you make on the people that come around you. Yeah, I'm kind of lost for words, to be honest with you, Matt.
That we don't always recognize the impact we're making, whether it's positive or negative.
Right,
And
right.
I think sometimes the negative comes back to us quicker. The positive, slowly goes away with just good feelings. But that's what this show is all about, Jim. It's finding that magic in each of our lives. And I believe it's available to each of us. And it comes from this great big happy circle that we've discovered. Giving your time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And giving from living in your purpose brings a profound joy to your life, but also to the lives of those around you. So it seems that giving leads to purpose, and giving from purpose leads to joy. So to capture the entire exponential power of our happy formula, Jim, I've got to tweak it just a tiny bit more to power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power. And that's really, truly, deeply happy. Does that sound about right?
So. Yeah, that'd be super happy, right? That's awesome.
As an engineer, you should understand that formula.
I do. I truly do. Trust me.
Very good. All right, let's wrap things up with a lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and ask you to tell us what they mean to you. Just give us the first thing that pops into your mind, because we call this a lightning round.
Right.
Here we go. This is from Paul Hawken. I love all these, I guess. He said, go deep into a specialty, get a customer, make them happy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The first thing that comes to my mind is I only serve quality wine. I can't give anybody, if something goes bad, they will never taste it. They'll never see it.
Yeah.
I don't want, and the same goes with food. My wife and I experiment, right? No. If we don't like it and doesn't pass our test, we're not going to give it to nobody.
Yeah. That's an aspect of what Paul said. That's also an aspect of giving. You want to make sure you're giving a good experience.
Correct. The highest quality you can.
Yeah. So you'll like this one. This is from Salvador Dali, the great famous.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Okay. He said, you may not hear, I found this quote just recently. He said, the connoisseur does not drink wine, but tastes its secrets.
Well, the first thing that popped in my head was the French talk about a wine will tell you what terroir, I know I was saying that word wrong, which basically means the environment that they grow in, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that. Because if you taste wines from all over the world, they're all different. Mm-hmm. You know, and you can tell which has, and sometimes you can even tell if they've had enough loving care to take care of them.
Yeah. Well, so I think you combine that with Salvador Dali, and it's the earth and the environment, and it's also the winemaker's secrets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good. This is from an unknown winemaker. I think you'll like this one also. I found this actually on a cork of a wine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it said, it's great. Creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which ones to keep.
Oh, yeah. So I make a wine called Biker's Blood, right? And when we made it, I had a chemist with me, a friend of mine, and we put 100 glasses on the table, and it took us a week to figure out what acid level, what sugar level, what balance we wanted, what grapes we wanted, right? And there was a lot of mistakes in that batch till finally we found this one. It was like, I think that's it.
Yeah. Very good.
I love that.
Yeah, that quote reminds me of Reese's peanut butter cups. And the story, this legendary story, is that was an accident when they came together and said, wow, this is a fantastic flavor. All right, this is from Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some have unwittingly entertained angels.
I don't know what I think about that one.
That's all right. We'll move right along.
It's pretty deep.
Yeah. And so for me, it's like you are constant. And the reason I put it up there for you, you're constantly entertaining guests.
Oh yeah, I don't.
I think the
They're all
scripture is
strangers.
telling us just to load up, treat everybody with great respect, because you might be entertaining an angel from God.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is from Sarah Young in her book called Jesus Calling. And she says, a life lived close to God is not complicated or cluttered.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's simple. All God wants us to do is love.
Yeah.
I believe that with my whole being. It's no more it's not complicated. And I learned that from an uncle, by the way, Matt.
Mm.
He died and he came back. He's the only one I've ever met that had the near-death experience.
Oh, is that right?
He was an atheist. And the minute he came back, he got baptized. And he told me my daughter had just been born, my youngest daughter. I said, Uncle Al, what'd you go? He said, oh, I went and talked to God. What'd he tell you? He said, don't make it complicated. He said to my uncle, you haven't finished your purpose. And he said, what's my purpose? He says, you need to tell your wife you love her more and show her. So he lived five more years, and that's what he did.
That's great.
Yeah. For me, that was overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Okay.
Hard to try to top that, but this is our show. This is the show anchor quote. It's from Goff. He says, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Absolutely. So my mother said something similar to me before. She had seen me, what she would tell me when she saw me down and I'd get up, down and get up. She says, you recover pretty fast. She says, but if you put your mind to it, I've noticed you've done it. I believe that with my whole heart. When we find that purpose we want to go after and we believe we can do it, there is nothing that will stop the human spirit that God has put in us. Yeah. You could call that the Holy Spirit for all I know, but that is a driving factor.
Yeah, and you can link up Goff's quote with your story about your uncle. When he came back, he didn't sit around and say, gee, I wonder if I should do what God said.
No, he did not.
He went right for it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that. Now, folks, it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you are inspired by today's show at Jim Frascone, please share a little love with our incredible broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Jim, I love the simplicity of your outlook of life, describing yourself as simply as a winemaker, a fisherman, and a Christian. And I admire your easy enthusiasm for sharing your wines and food and experiences and stories and laughter with everyone you meet. And I'm super happy that you've shared your generous, entrepreneurial, and God-loving spirit on our show today. Will you please take a minute or two and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
Well, I believe that through the power of the Lord, when we set our mind to do something and pray for his guidance, that we can do anything we want in life. And if we want to be happy, we'll be happy. And that is my driving goal.
Very good. Very good. All right, thank you. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Jim and reaching folks just like you ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things Jim Frascone. Find him, friend him, join his wine club. And if you're ever in Southeast Texas, you got to stop by and say hello, sip some wine, and taste those alligator egg rolls. And you'll find all of it in our show notes. From me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So go to happyliving.com right now and download our free mini but mighty ebook called Making Your Mark of Significance. And once you read the book, and it only takes about 30 minutes or so, then give some thought about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your world, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome, and this is the Something Significant Show. And we're out.
A writer wrote this story after Hurricane Ike. The passage describes this remarkable story of power, purpose, and giving. Coffee importers Terry and Joe Butcher lost their coffee business during Hurricane Ike. That same storm also wiped out the Frascone home and winery with nearly 1,000 bottles of wine that were simply lost. The butchers found and salvaged the lost wine that had been scattered in fields and ditches of the storm-ravaged area. The wine had no labels, so the butchers put the mystery wine in coolers and began selling them. Later, finding out who the wine belonged to, they contacted the Frascones and gave them half the proceeds to help them rebuild their business. And a new label and crest was created. The writer, having a free cup of coffee with the butchers, purchased a bottle of the Frascone wine and described the taste as a beautiful clear claret, like a day made perfect for recovery.